this is like fun with other, running friends. So I'm like, I'm going to do it because I knew it would put me in a good mood. You are my BRF.
What's happening, Eric?
There for your victory lap.
Yeah.
Whoa!
How did that happen?
How did you do that?
And all of a sudden I go to zip it up and I'm like, why is the zipper in the front right now? 0 out of 10 on the recommendation scale.
I am literally crying from laughter and from so much like love. Oh my God.
It's like I see off for your cornhole.
And he just smashed Arnie like that and said, you stay out of this, Arnie. And like,
But I don't run to stay sober. I get to run because I am.
And there she was, a halo over her head.
No, it's not freaking true. Okay.
And he steps to the side and just gestures. Here's the tinkle pot.
I don't need to tinkle.
Our next guest on the pod is an absolute badass mom who just ran 7 marathons in 7 continents in 7 days. She's from the West Coast in Bend, Oregon, and she's been just blowing up all over the social media lately. And we are so lucky and fortunate to have her on the podcast, Hillary Kupish. Welcome to the On the Runs pod. What's up, Hillary?
Thank you so much. God, I love podcast introductions. It makes you feel really special.
Eric has a special knack for nailing the intro, so he's very good at those.
That one I did blind. I looked right at the camera and I was guessing everything. And I knew one thing about you though. You are a badass mom because you run really fast and you have 2 very young kids, a 3 and a 6-year-old. And that's freaking impressive, Hillary.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you. I mean, just doing what I can. I mean, you have 2 3-year-old twins. So I found out before we started here. So that is also very badass. So I think there's a lot of badass people, but I do think, that there's something important to that. I want to show up for my kids in a certain way. And I think running's a big part of it, but we'll talk more about that.
Yeah, I think it's
being
huge.
A great role model. I absolutely think so, especially after the incredible feat that you just completed with running the 7 marathons in 7 days over the 7 continents with the Great World Race. And I am just so happy to have you here.
And what I forgot to mention actually was that she won the whole thing.
Oh yeah, that happened.
Not a big deal.
I mean, we can get into that. There's just like every day, there's things that can happen. There's just so many incredible athletes. We're all just kind of like living on the edge and pushing ourselves to our limits. And there's a little bit of a gamble that goes into each day. But I'm very grateful, and I'm really proud of how I was able to show up and how my body showed up. And yeah, it was a wild thing. For anybody that's interested, let's do it.
We're definitely interested.
Ooh, so maybe again. We'll get there. But first, let's get to know you, actually, Hillary, because besides knowing you're a really fast runner and a badass mother, we don't know anything else about you. You're from Bend, Oregon. Tell us a little bit about Hillary.
Yeah, so I currently am in Bend, Oregon. I was born in Phoenix, Arizona. Grew up in the Portland area, actually. Mm-hmm. So more of traditional Pacific Northwest, where people think of a lot of rain and gray, et cetera. I've chosen to live now in Bend, Oregon, which is beautiful, a lot of sunshine. It's high desert, so similar to kind of like a Boulder type area. But I am a brand strategist full-time. I worked actually the past almost 10 years at Nike doing all different types of experience and strategy work there. And as you mentioned, mom of 2. And in between all those things, I like to run a lot and be outside.
Hillary, what does it mean? Oh, yeah. I was just going to ask, what does it mean to be a brand strategist? Especially if
we might be interested actually as we're growing a thing here.
I know, right?
Strategy, yeah. Yeah, so I will say that's a little bit of a generalized term. One of the things that throughout my time at Nike, I think I was there for 9+ years, and I think I held officially 7 different roles. And, one of the things, and some of that was through reorg, some of that was through, climbing and through promotion. Some of it was just lateral moves. It was just, there was a lot of change happening through my time there. And one of the things I will say is I'm a generalist by trade, and strategy is a really great general term that I can use. And I've done different types of it. I work a lot with growth marketing strategy, which is way more specific to how you used, paid media essentially to promote your brand. I've done a lot of experience design strategy, which is a little bit more in the user experience space or in a physical space. And then brand strategy is kind of sits above all that. And it's the idea of getting really down to the core of what you're doing, why you're doing it, who your customer is, and how you're showing up for them. So in a way, I think the reason why I like to, I do a lot of different types and have done a lot of different types for why I'm really passionate about brand strategy. It's because it probably falls a little bit more closely in aligned to some of my core values. I'm a highly relational person. I really have spent a lot of time knowing what my values are, what integrity means to me. And I love working with companies that are also really thoughtful about that, because it creates a lot of longevity, right? You can throw money, marketing dollars in campaigns and do things and be looking at that next week and 3 months and 6 months and 9 months, and you're kind of on this hamster wheel.
You get more invested though when you align yourself with the company's values and such.
Yeah. So it's like you got to have, in my mind, you got to have both in a perfect world. And so brand strategy is a really cool way to be thinking a little bit more long term, a little bit more strategically, and really, getting to the heart of what you're trying to push forward. So, there's a lot of fun creative stuff that goes into that as well, and that's part of the background.
Now, do you work for yourself?
Yes. So I work for myself, and I also work with a collective called Apiary. They are a growth marketing collective. So I do a lot of my longer term retainer projects through them. I am not taking on additional personal projects right now, given the amount of workload I have. But yeah, I mean, I have people reached out. LinkedIn is a great way to connect, but at least for this season, trying to be very mindful about how many hours I put into, the corporate work bucket, because there's a lot of fun projects ahead.
One of the questions I always love to ask someone if I'm talking to them, like an entrepreneur, like you worked for Nike for 9-something years, and it takes a lot of guts sometimes to leave a safe job per se that has insurance and benefits and everything to work for yourself. Like what gave you that confidence to do that at the time whenever you made this decision and that move?
Yeah, that's a great question. I'm going to give a big shout out to my past executive coach, Lucy Reynolds, who I could talk about for days. But I'd done some work with her actually while I was at Nike, and thinking about how I want to be, the type of leader I want to be, the type of positions I want to be in. And one of the things that resonated through that process was really thinking through like what I want to do longer term, what my values are, how I want to be with my kids, family, et cetera. During this process, I had actually already moved to Bend, Oregon. And for those of you that know, Nike's headquarters is in Beaverton, Oregon, which is about 3.5-4 hours north. So I had been doing the COVID commute, like after COVID, doing a commute. And it was, I drive up on Tuesday mornings at 5:30 a.m. Get there by my 9 o'clock meetings, stay there for 2 nights. Luckily, my parents live up there. So I'd stay with my parents. The kids would be with their dad, and I'd come back Thursday night. And that took a really long toll. That was about 3 years of making that happen and doing the half remote, half on campus life. There came to be a point where Nike decided, we want you in office 4 days a week, and here's what it comes with. And that absolutely didn't work for me. So it was a very, I think I'd already been looking at transitioning and kind of recognizing like this is taking a toll, but I don't think it was until I had to, make the very kind of serious decision of like, I'm going to step out to the unknown. To your point, it was especially being like a single income household, 2 kids, daycare is expensive, my mortgage, like there was all these things. And I was so used to the package that came with working for a corporation. But ultimately it's just like, I had to kind of step out in faith and trust. And I had built over the course of time, a really incredible, I'll call it like board of advisors unofficially, of people in my life that really spoke into where my skills were able to make introductions. And it was like a couple months of transition hustle, trying on different things, and ultimately falling into some really stable retainers, and then being able to take on some fun stuff as well. And so this has only been like, 6-9 months of this sort of thing. So I'm still new in this space.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
Yeah, it's been, I can't believe like this last year has been an absolute friggin' whirlwind.
And if I did my homework right, like you decided to do the Great Road Race in August.
Your homework,
So it's been a crazy
That just
last
adds
6
to the
months for you.
whirlwind. I don't think there's any other way to put it.
Yeah, that was just like, and yeah, why not layer something else on top of it? I mean,
Right.
I can get into like the how and why of that, but sometimes it's just like you need something spicy to take on, I
There you
guess.
go. There you go.
So Hillary, we know what kind of daily life you've got going on, but what began your running journey? Like what started your love for running? And I mean, to be honest, how did you become so good at it? Where'd the speed come from? I'm so excited to hear the origin story.
Yeah, I mean, when people say things like that, I'm like, what speed? Like, I'm not sure what we're talking about. And
It's
so I think I
natural.
have some serious imposter syndrome there. No, I mean, my backstory is like, I was a little kid. I like love two things. I love art. I love sports,
Mhm.
and been big threads through my life. I grew up playing soccer actually, so that was kind of like my first love. I was a super shy kid, like painfully shy, and it was probably the one area of my life where I like stepped out and was a little bit spicy with things. However, after I think it was like my playing through middle school, I remember like I got recruited onto a team, aged up, and like was playing with these girls that were older, and I was already a year younger, and um, it was one of those moments of like social, probably anxiety and pressure to the point of like I can't do this. He's like, some of these girls are mean. Like,
Oh no.
I don't, or, my like sensitive little shy self did not thrive in that environment, and I like hung up my shoes, which was a big deal for me because I remember I was thinking about this today. I remember having a conversation with my dad around that time, and he was like, yeah, making some joke about like paying for you 3 kids through college. And I was like, well, Dad, you don't have to pay for me. I'll get a scholarship for soccer. And I said it so confidently, like, of course I will. And then quit like less than a year later. That said, I took a year off my freshman year, didn't know what I wanted to do. I had a neighbor that ran cross country. And I was like, oh, well, I want to be doing something. And I missed being on a team. I love sport. I loved moving. And so I was like, I'll try it. This isn't the story where I like become a great cross country athlete. This is the story where I take the 3rd seat on the varsity team and happily sat there without trying, making my coach furious because I like just wanted to be good enough to like sit on varsity, but like did not give a flying, like did not care. And I think I was one of those athletes that was honestly pretty frustrating. I think he saw something in me that I didn't. And I, at that point, like probably just like didn't want to work hard, didn't want to suffer. And it was social, but it planted something in me and maybe a little bit of confidence. And so it really wasn't until then, like ran for 2 years in high school, didn't run my senior year for different reasons, went on to college, dabbled maybe. And it really wasn't until I think I was 25 when I ran my first marathon.
Okay.
Maybe 24. It was the Hawaii Oceanfront Marathon, which is very humid. I was completely undertrained. I had run 18 miles beforehand, and I like suffered through, chafed terribly.
So this was not the ideal marathon sequence that you were hoping for. Just kind of miserable for you.
I mean, it was just one of those things that it was beautiful though, right? And it's like you just sign up and do it. And I think that's like when people like, it's like one of those things where I'm like, yeah, I'm kind of glad I didn't overthink it. I'm just like, yeah, why not? Like let's get after it. And then I think through the course of a few years, ran a few more marathons. I will say that probably like maybe the turning point where like running became more of a thing was that when I started working at Nike. I fell into a job there, and when I fell in, you guys may know, I was actually in the same department as she is a professional ultra runner named Amanda Basham, and this was before she was a pro. And we worked side by side, and I remember for the first time hearing about freaking ultra running, and I was like, you're doing what? And her and the other son, Dave, they're like, he's doing 100-miler coming up. She's doing like crushing these 50Ks. And I'm like, these are things that people do. And it got me really interested and intrigued and like reinvigorated. And like, there's a group of kind of faster women on campus that I would sometimes tag along with. Keely Henninger, who is also now a pro, was at Nike at the same time. And we ran together for a little bit. Like, I had a couple good years of like maybe like I qualified for Boston. I ran Boston, ran a handful of marathons. I then like got really into my career, had my first kid in 2018, and probably like fell off for a few years for different reasons. I mean, I like dabbled, but like life reasons, right? I was like investing a little bit more in my career. Definitely, kind of in a marriage that was very tough quite frankly, and, figuring out how to have a kid. And it wasn't until actually my second child in 2020 moved to Bend, 2021 had another kid. 6 months after she was born, my husband left. And we both played our parts in that. But it was it was a huge, huge turning point for me in my life more generally, but absolutely with running. I really used that moment, and I could get into all the things behind it to say I need to figure out who I am, what I stand for, what I believe in, what I want to do with my life. I had lost so much of myself over the course of those 10 years.
Wow.
And, running for the first time ever became something that was consistent. I mean, I'd run marathons, but I'd never followed a training plan. Really?
Yep.
I never had a coach. I never did anything in a really consistent way. And I would say the last 3-ish years since then have been I'm going to get a coach. I've had 2 different coaches. They've been friggin' phenomenal. You want to be consistent. You want to start learning how to run well, start working with a coach. And I don't work with one right now, and that's okay. They can play a role in a season, but it's with those that have kind of made me just be more consistent and dive in and sign up for bigger things. So that was a very long-winded answer. I'm not taking me
It was a great answer.
Well, I'm glad
I don't
that it
even think I
helped
told
you.
you a rule is spare no details.
I did see that, and I saw it, so I was like, "Did they just want me to word vomit?" They can edit things out.
I mean, that's a good way to put it, but we love all the details, the stories behind the reasons. I mean, you're welcome to share whatever you want with us, basically. So, but I'm glad that running did play a bigger role in helping you rediscover yourself, because I understand how hard it can be just trying to pivot from relationships and jobs and having children, and it can just be, I don't know, mind bending, trying to find the new normal.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think for me, and other people, if this resonates with anyone and if it's helpful, I think what I realized in the way I was brought up and in my marriage, I really was the type of person that was I was trying to make everyone else comfortable. I was trying to do the thing to fly under the radar, to be the person that people wanted me to be, so everyone felt safe. And so it wasn't chaotic. I had an older brother that was a rebel and a younger sister that was wild. And I was kind of the middle child. So I'm just I'm just going to stay under the radar here. And I took that into my life. And what the sad thing about that is, and I shouldn't, maybe sad's not the right word, but looking back, there was so much of me that I really set to the side to nurture what I felt like other people needed versus what lit me up. And it's been a really cool process over the past few years to figure out the things that I love and that I don't love, what I do with vacations, what I do with my free time, what kind of people are in my life. And I might even present differently these days, but running's been a hugely empowering part of that.
Wonderful.
I love to hear that. That's amazing to hear. So you said you decide how to use your time and your vacation time. So are you the type who will go on vacation to the beach, or are you the one who will be I'm going to go on a runcation? Because I think you just went on one.
Oh yeah. Are we talking relaxing or see everything all at once?
Yeah. Yes. I believe in the beauty of both. But yeah, I'm for sure the runcation type. I want my ideal day, any day, involves some sort of beautiful outside, semi-intense movement followed by beautiful food, maybe a little rest and play. Whether that be mountains, beach.
That's the best of both worlds right there.
You name it. Yeah. I mean, I'm yes to both. I want it all.
I'm down for that.
That's, you can frame it up that way. I'll give you an example. When I was, after getting divorced, I was thinking, I need to go on vacation this year. I want to do it for me. What do I actually want to do? Because, in our relationship, we had kind of done the same sort of things. Cause what they had needed was more structure and the same spot in Hawaii or this kind of thing, which was great in its own right. But I was I get antsy and I want to see the world. And I'm I haven't been to Iceland. I would love to go to Iceland. I've never been backpacking hut to hut. That sounds amazing. I have 2 girlfriends here that are down, let's go. And so we did a backpacking trip, 4 days, hut to hut. If you've never been to Iceland and done that, like, please go. Like, it is
Adding it to my list as we speak.
literally, it's like a newborn planet. It is so beautiful. And every day the landscape changes in such close proximity. You could probably run the whole thing in a day if you wanted to, but the hut and the hiking is really fun. And so you just have this beautiful, and then there's all this like thermal like activities. So there's hot springs and there's incredible food in the city. Like Reykjavik is really cool. Like it's not known for, like Iceland is not known for great food, but there's a lot of like great little spots you can find. And I mean, and for me, like that was it. Like that's exactly what I want to do. Like trek, see something new, like feast my eyes on like nature, be out in the wild, and also like have a little bit of like luxe downtime. And for me, like I think even with like the 7, like when you're working when you have built your life so that you have so many moving parts that you're so often shepherding, whether that be your children or your animals or your home or your teams or your clients, there's a lot of management. There's a lot of mental activity that goes into the forethought, into planning, to making sure everything is arranged for the next day and thinking so far ahead. And for me, the beauty about these kind of trips is like you can plan it enough so that by the time you're there, you just show up. And all you have to do is be in that present moment. And all you have to do is like take it in and like exert yourself. And that's like one of my most like core and favorite places to be. And that's why like the 7 during the Great World Race was like a running vacation. Like I didn't even have to think of like, I was handed a plane ticket and they pointed where like, here's where you go. Like, here's food, feed yourself. Like all you have to do is like run 3.5 hours a day and like box checked next country. So it was an absolute treat in that regard.
That's kind awesome. Of my ideal thing is somebody like just I'll go somewhere. You tell me where to be, when, how I get there, just all the details, takes the guesswork out, makes it more fun. And it's just an easy thing. I mean, nothing's easy about the running part, but at least you have all the logistics taken care of and you're ready to go.
That was Erica a year ago when we went to Peloton Studios for the first time. We got invited to go for a bike ride with Matt Wilpers, and she's just like, tell me, like, we'll pick her up. Tell me what time. We took care of everything else. And if Bex is listening right now, she'll be a little disappointed because Erica had the chance to go, but it was by herself. And she goes, I don't know. Can you come with me and plan it for me?
No,
and I was like, we're going to go later next year. We'll figure it out. But
we'll go back together. I'll go with you.
Yes, please.
We would love to. And it would have to be a Bex run, and maybe we can rent out the whole studio. But I also believe you are a big Peloton person long before this. Erica is as well. I am, but Erica's like 10,000 day streaker right now. So the 3 of us are, but the 2 of you
Not
especially.
Not for Peloton. I've been doing it since May of 2020. So 2020 was, chaos all over the place, and I had to have some structure, and I picked Peloton. So I've been going strong with it. I think I have like a 220 something week streak, but I don't have a consecutive day, so can't give me that much credit.
I mean, I will still applaud that. Mine, I don't know what my streak is, but it's not that long. I mean, I think the 7-7 probably screwed some things out.
Well, you have a very good excuse. I would have picked that too, so no worries.
Yeah, no, but I'm with you. I love Peloton. And actually, so I started with the tread. Which is like a weird entryway. I do have the bike now too, but yeah, and that was in 2018 because when I had my son, I remember being like, I was fortunate to have a longer maternity leave, and I was like, how do I move?
Yeah.
With like having to, like, he's napping, like, how do I use this time? And we did a lot of stroller running and stuff too, but it was the first time I had made like a big investment, and I never turned back. And I used to hate the treadmill. I used to absolutely hate the treadmill, never would run inside. I have the nice one with like the big, it's like the Tread Plus or whatever.
Oh, I hate you. Can I have one too? Can I get one?
Yeah, when there was like recalls back in the day, I was like, there's no way.
I'm not giving it up. I would have gotten that if I had enough ceiling space in my basement, but I didn't have the room for it.
It's killer. It's so good. And so, yeah, I'm a big fan.
I think, though, that it was a Peloton run you took in August that got you to pull the trigger for the Great World Race. Tell me about that.
Yeah,
Cool.
you're absolutely right. So I had been targeted somewhere. So like, good job, David, for like whatever social media shenanigans you were pulling. Cause I saw it and I was like, that looks incredible. Also, but I had all of the like the self doubts of like only people that are sponsored do that, or professional athletes, or people that are super wealthy, or like all these different things. But I'm like, what a wild trip that would be. And part of the reason why I was so attracted to it, one is like I know marathon distance well, like I can run a marathon. I also was like, I love relays. I love ultra relays. Cascade Lakes is one out here. Hood to Coast, I've done a handful, and like I'm like in my mind, it's like adult summer camp. And I'm like, how cool would it be to be out in like all these different places? But I was like, yeah, that's not in the cards. And then I'm running one day and I'm like, I can't remember what it was, but it was smoky out. So I had like my air purifier in my garage with my fan going because you can't run outside when it's bad smoke here. And I was running and Bex was talking and she's like, I think she had already announced it, but it was like, she was talking about that she was doing it. It's like, damn it. This is not leaving me alone. And it was one of those things where I'm like, okay, why, what is the pull here? And, I think sometimes in life there are pulls that you can't explain. And at least in my experience, and it's just a gut knowing of like, you need to do this. And I don't know what it was about that race. And maybe part of like seeing Bex doing it was also like a validation that it wasn't a scam.
That's always a good sign.
When I first looked at it, I was like, I don't know if this is real. Is this going to be like, what is that thing that happened in the desert, like fire something, where it's like all these celebrities?
The Fire Fest? Are you talking about?
Yeah, literally, that's what I thought. I'm like, am I going to show up in Cape Town and be like stranded in like nowhere with no plane? So it's a real thing for anybody that's questioning. But that's when I started like actually assessing, and I shared this on the New York Roadrunners podcast. But I think the really important thing for me, or like the shift, was like I started going through all the reasons why not, like the expense, the amount of I'd have to be so dialed on my sleep. I only had 3 months. My training would have to be spot on. I'd have to be really, really smart about it. I'd have to be really diligent about my kids' schedule and when I'm getting runs in, and my nutrition, yada yada. I like had this list, and I was like, God, I already want to be better about my budget. I want to be more disciplined about sleep. I want to like be really good about scheduling and managing all of my time. And all these whys were actually like, okay, I can do all those things and run this incredible race. Like my why nots became my why.
Okay.
And I'm happy to say that. And like it built some really strong habits, like in the process of being able to say yes and go, which was a pretty wild shift. But yeah, so you can thank Bex. I mean, I will give credit to her. She was the final like validation that got me to get on a call with David.
That is too cool. I mean, I know that whenever we talk about anything, our phones are always listening, and then all of a sudden you see ads pop up, and you're like, how do you know? Like I talked about this 2 minutes
Flying
ago.
Pig Marathon ad right now, Erica.
I mean, that's one of them. But like they just show up places. But once you get that idea in your head, I know how difficult it is to stop. And that's one of the reasons why I ran my first 100-miler in 2023, just because I could not get the idea out of my head. It would just keep coming back. And like you said, your why nots turn into your whys. Like what's stopping me? What's really stopping me? Fear. I mean, money is always doesn't matter, but it's just talking yourself into it and trying to make it a good idea. It may not always be the good idea, but you're like, make your why not your why.
Yeah. Along those lines, I heard this quote recently and I just like keep going back to it. And it was this, stop worrying about making the right decision and start making the decision right.
Oh,
and I think for like anything, whether it's a race, whether it's a goal, whether it's a commitment to family, it's like, or buying a new house, whatever it is, there's never going to be a perfect decision. And I think, at least I know for me and in my line of work, there's a lot of analysis, right? Always trying to like hedge our bets to make sure we're making the right decision, the right move, the right investment. And sometimes I feel like we've gotten so out of tune with our own gut that, we almost like rationalize our way out of really good things. Maybe I'm speaking to myself and I'm speaking to myself right now, because I am trying to be a little bit more in tune with like, what is the pull? What do I need to say yes to? And instead of focusing on like what's going to be perfect and when the perfect time is, because there's never a perfect time, like how do I just make the decision right?
That is true. Oh man. So once you made this decision, was it all systems go? Like how did you really plan out what you were going to do? Were you at a good base for the marathon running parts at least, and everything else just kind of worked its way into place?
Weren't you already training for another marathon?
Yeah. So I had a good basin. I'd run a marathon in the spring. I'd run the Bend Marathon. It actually did not go well.
Oh.
It was like one of my darkest mental marathons. It was.
That can actually be helpful though, because you know what kind of place your mind can go to, so you can work your way out of it.
Absolutely. No, absolutely. It's, you have to have those bad races to really appreciate the good ones.
Yes.
And so I had that going for me.
Oh.
And I had already started like I wouldn't say I had like I did not have high mileage, but I had some training down heading into, I had gotten into New York.
Oh, okay.
And I signed like the day before the New York Marathon lottery closed. I was like, I'm going to throw my name in, whatever. I got in. And I was like astonished because I think only like 4% of all the overall entrants.
It's a very slim chance to get into that.
Yeah.
But
and I was like, hell yeah, like let's go. And so it
Mhm.
was already geared up for New York. And that was one of the interesting complexities with this, because New York was about 10 days before the start of this.
Right.
And so when I talked to David, I was like, hey, so this is what I'm doing. Would you really recommend against it? And he's like, no. Just like train for your fast marathon. You'll finish the 7. And I was like, okay. And then, as I started training, I was like, I can run a fast marathon anytime when I'm going to get the chance to run 7. And so I did switch up my training, and I'd gone through, and I have like my Roadrunners Club of America. Wow, I can't even say it. NRCA. National Roadrunners Club of America. NRCA coaching certification. Botching it. Sorry, guys. I had gotten that in the spring, and so I had actually developed my own training plan.
Okay.
I think I titled it like highest safe mileage, like let's fucking go.
Yes.
Very like, it was conservative, so it didn't get as high as I think some of the other people did, because I couldn't get injured. I had 3 months. Like, I'm like, I can't teeter to the point of injury.
Mhm.
I'm going to pull back on some intensity. I'm going to pull back on some speed, but it did like really get some serious mileage in, at least for me. That then like it ultimately served me well. I PR'd at New York too, which was like,
Oh my gosh, congratulations.
yeah, thanks. I mean, I was like, train for the 7, and then like you may just PR your regular marathon too.
Well, you put in some good work if you PR'd that, and then what, 2 weeks later you were ready to go?
Yeah. I mean, I was way more sore from New York, certainly, than from the 7. It was a different feeling.
Well,
but,
yeah, New York's got the elevation changes, and well, at least it had the crowds too. So the crowds could help get you to the finish. But oh man.
Before we get to flying over to Cape Town, one thing you did mention earlier was you called David. And a lot of people, Justin was one of them, Bill Murphy was another one. You hear stories about people would call David before they sign up for the race. Is that a common thing? Like, is that part of like the whole application? You have to call him and talk to him, make sure like you could do this?
Yeah, totally. Yes, it is. I didn't happen to know David beforehand, just like called up my BFF David. I say it like that now because I feel like, when you go through that kind of thing with someone, you have a different type of relationship.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, so one of the other, things that was really validating and like kind of solidified that this is a real thing was when I signed up to get for information, it was like schedule a call, and it was David on the phone. And so that's when I got into the phone with him, and I was like, okay, he seems legit. And then I was like, he may be still a smooth talker though. Like he had the podcast, so that helped. He had Ryan Hall, he had Bags, he had Dave. Like it slowly and surely became more validated. But yes. I mean, I was like a high skeptic at first.
You're making sure he wasn't one of those Irish travelers that we hear about.
It's a thing,
It is a thing, unfortunately. So you were just in New York. Did you like go home before going to Cape Town? How did you arrive to Cape Town? Did you go early? Did you meet the other runners? Were you talking to them on social media before? Like, hey, I'm running with you. Like, hey, Bex, my name's Hillary. I'm going to be there. Can we be friends?
I saved my fangirl moment for Bex. But yeah, so I went to New York, ran the race, incredible day, beautiful race. Like if you can run one marathon, run New York. And then I flew home because I had to work. Honestly, the one thing about being a consultant versus having a corporate gig, you only get paid when you're actually working. I am billing my hours. I knew I was taking 2 weeks off, so I went home. I worked, but I will say, I don't think I'd been sick in almost 2 years, which is kind of miraculous because I have little kids. But after New
That's
York,
impressive.
on the day of New York, I woke up and I was like, oh no,
Oh,
I'm feeling like right here. And I took don't do this. I took a Sudafed like allergy and half a Dayquil before the race. So I was like, maybe I would get tested. I don't know. I think Tylenol's legit. Anyway, but by the time that evening hit, after the race, we went and saw Wicked, and I had this killer headache, and I was like,
no.
I'm going down. I know it. And so by the time I actually made it home to Bend, I was in it was like a 36-hour fever. I stayed in bed. I woke up and I took work calls off video from my bed. I'm admitting this now. Sorry, everyone. Pretty sure I don't remember what I said. Luckily I have a great team. They forgave me, but got really sick. It seemed like, oh, that's terrible. No one wants to be sick right before the 7. But honestly, it helped my taper. It made me taper. And so I basically had a very solid down week. Started running a little bit and then finally flew over to Cape Town the day before the briefing. So I was kind of like, again, I was working straight up to it. And for me, life was so busy. I really wasn't reaching out. I think I had reached out to a couple, Frank and a few people, but months prior, but I just am not great on social. One of the things, even in the intro, it's like, we don't really know much about you. It's like, yeah, I hadn't posted on social media for 2 years before New York. I'm not, I've been so involved in mom and brand and corporate world that it's I'm kind of reemerging into the social spaces. And so, with that, it was coming into Cape Town, it was kind of just showing up to the first day of high school.
Right.
Maybe that's wrong analogy.
That's kind of cool.
We thought of it as the summer camp
Summer
thing.
camp.
Like you had mentioned it before. That's kind of what we were thinking it was like, because you're just showing up and there's all these new people. They're alone too. They're all in the same boat. Everybody's just got to make friends somewhere. And you guys got wonderful seatmates on the plane. We could talk about that after, but you guys made some awesome friends.
Yeah, no, we did. And I will say it was like that. I remember. So the first day after, I got in that night, and the first day was the race briefing. And in the morning, I went out and went for a run by myself because I'm like, whatever. So I did the 6-mile beautiful loop. On the way back, I see a couple other runners, and I'm like, hey, are you guys here for the race? And it was Andrew, the Australian guy, and Santos, who's this incredible PT, and chatted them up for a little bit. Went out with some of the other runners, came back, Bex and some of the girls were together, said hi to them. I think that morning when I saw Bex at breakfast, and I kind of hobbled over, I'm like, hey, I think you're Bex. And she had just I think friended me.
You don't think you're Bex. You knew she.
Well, I knew it was Bex.
Cool,
obviously.
man. Gotta play it cool.
I was like, but I didn't want to be weird. And she was like,
I totally get it.
Yeah. You know how it was. It was just the awkward, hi, I'm not I'm not creepy. But I think we had also hit it off because we're both moms, young little girls and all that. And so yeah. And I mean, but even after we go into the race briefing, and, Jenny, Bex and I are sitting there in a mild panic because as soon as we sit down, the first thing that comes out of David's mouth is so change of plans and we're going tomorrow. And everyone's just waiting for him to just kidding. And he's like, so here's why. And shows us the graph of the 6-hour window we can get in and out. And we're all just okay, planning mode. And we're asking each other questions do you have this? Do you have chapstick? What shoes are you wearing? And it was this cool moment because I will say I'm sitting next to an Olympian and Bex Gentry. And in that moment, they had just as many panic questions as I did. And I'm like, oh, we're all in this together. This is going to be good. And I think that was kind of those first moments where I'm like, okay, we're all just real people. We're all real humans here. And we're going to friggin' figure this out one way or another.
That's all you guys could do. He's just throwing you right into it, David is. And there you go. We're going. It's happening.
I wasn't mad about it. I was actually really excited. I didn't have plans for the next day. Some people had like, I had the penguin excursion, and I'm like, dude, I hadn't even thought about like anything but getting my butt here. Like I was probably going to sit around and stress for days. So I was ready to go on the plane.
Good.
So you're like ready to go. You're like, let's freaking do this, man. So you wake up early on that next day. You get on the airplane. Ben's got this Twitch live stream going on. People listening now, they know you won, but like you're probably just like in awe of all these superstar runners, right?
For sure.
You talked about how you want to take in all your vacations and take in the moment. What was that whole Antarctica experience like for the start of the race?
Yeah. Oh man, it was beautiful. I mean, I think it was the first taste also of like just follow directions and show up and go where you're being pointed to go. And, it was a unique one because it was a different plane than that we were on. I remember like Shireen and I were sitting close to each other, a couple of the other girls. Everyone was like a little bit chatty, but you can tell everyone, like there was just so much gear. Yeah. We had been prepped to bring so much gear to Antarctica because if the wind changes or if the moisture increases or if anything happens, like it can go from comfortable to dangerous.
Oh, wow.
And so we were coming in and they're like, it's looking like it's going to be good weather, but we're all, I will honestly now say, way over prepared for the weather that we actually got. Mm-hmm. We land the plane, and as we start getting off, it is just the most gorgeous desert landscape, as you can imagine. If you've seen the pictures, like go look them up. It's worthwhile. And I think it was just like in awe, like, okay, we're doing this. Like this is a real thing. And you jump down onto this little like car sled thing, and they transport us to this area, like these little tents that on the inside are just luxurious, beautiful, kind of like Scandinavian wood, metals, furs, super hot inside of them, like roaring fires, like I was like, this is kind of bougie. I wish we could get in here. And they're like, we spent 10 minutes because we had to get in and get out. And so dropped all of our gear, go to the start line. Everyone's amped. And I'm standing there and I'm like, I'm already hot. I was like, nope, I'm taking off the top layer. Like took off the shell. I still had base layer, pants, mid layer on top. Mm-hmm. And I had, gloves and all, that kind of things. And I took off my hat. I still was wearing a headband, but it was sunny. We got epic weather. I actually ended up asking one of the staff later about, was this like unusual or is this something that happens here? And they're like, this morning, I kid you not, I woke up to my tent shaking so bad. I was like, there's no way they're landing the plane today.
Oh, wow.
And he's like, and then 3 hours later, crystal clear, beautiful, sunny. He's like, they know what they're doing. They have all the maps, and he was getting into the technicalities of it. But like, we really, really were fortunate in the weather that we got. And the course itself was great. They made it, I think they ended up making it 4 loops. So it was a little bit closer so they could keep eyes on us. Mm-hmm. It was groomed. You can only stay on where they like ran the tracks.
Yeah.
Because if you step off, it's a glacier. They're like, if it's blue, you will fall. Don't try it. And so you're navigating through this, looped course that is the first quarter is climbing deceivingly. Like you can't tell you're climbing. You're like, why does this feel hard? And then all of a sudden you're like, oh my God, we were climbing that whole time. You come down the other side, you see these like rock spires in the distance. And then about a quarter of it also was just like this mushy snow, which kind of sucked. It was, where you lose your footing. It was way more like trail running. You'd have to like really watch where you stepped. I feel like because I'm from Bend, part of me was like, no big deal. Like, this is fun. Like, let's play. And so
that's the good mindset. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's like, there's nothing I'm going to be upset about during that race. You could have like hurled me over, like there were bathroom issues. We can get into that. I think they already talked to you about some of those.
Tinkle pot. We heard about the tinkle pot.
The tinkle pot. Yeah. We did not use the tinkle pot.
Yeah.
I will say.
I feel like that's a missed opportunity.
Eric took care of it. Remember?
I would have done exactly what he did. I'd be like, you know what? I need to use this, and I need to take a picture.
Please take a picture of me taking a dump out in the middle of nowhere.
Just gone back at the end and just like.
So I appreciate him for that.
We had enough of those moments. Like there were many more ahead. But I will say when, after like asking so many times of like where and getting misdirected twice.
Oh.
You were yelling, right? There's not great acoustics and people have hats and stuff on so they can't hear you. Right. And I remember after the race, one of the guys, Ross, was like, yeah, man, we saw you cruising through that second lap, coming towards the finish. And we're like, damn, these girls are picking it up. And then we realized you were like, went off course. And we're like, where are they going? It's the fastest we've seen anybody run all day. It's because we're landing it to that bathroom.
Yeah, you guys had to do what you had to do.
I mean, it's a couple minutes off your time, but whatever.
I mean,
Obviously.
when
You still
guys
crushed it.
Yeah, you guys were going at a pretty fast clip, and what's a couple minutes to just enjoy the extra time in Antarctica?
Yeah, exactly.
What was your expectation going into that race? Were you expecting to still run like your normal paces that you've been training with, or were you had no expectations because it's Antarctica and the elements?
100%, no expectations. Actually, for like all of these races. I mean, because it's like I didn't know what my body could pace day after day after day at that volume. I mean, you're talking about, I've never gone over a 110-mile week. It was 184 plus miles.
Not a big deal.
But the way that I went into it was really like, how do I want to be today?
Yeah.
And run within yourself, save something, and it was more about like, and I had gone through this whole list of like, what are all the things that can go wrong? And I knew what I was going to do when those things happened. Cause it wasn't if they happen, like, what if I don't want to be like, if I need to use the bathroom, what happens? If I have to, if I hurt myself, if I'm not feeling good, if I'm throwing up, all these things, like having that mental preparation was huge. Cause then when the things did happen, it's like, okay, it's happening. Now we deal with it and move on.
Yeah.
And that just like protects the mindset of being able to be like joyful and playful with it. And I mean, it wasn't all roses every race, but I mean, like, again, you're in Antarctica. If you're not having fun, that's a missed opportunity to just enjoy one of the most special places that like most people in the world will never get to go to. Like it is such an incredible privilege. So yeah.
I love your mindset on this. Just, you wanted to have fun. You wanted to soak up the experience and just take a little bit of pressure off of yourself just so you weren't, stressing. Because the added stress isn't going to help you.
Yeah, you had the right approach. You for sure did.
I will say one of my favorite moments too, like there was like a lot of laughter and joy with it. And I'm running with people like Ashley and Bex were huge in this. I remember Ashley, I have this video. It's one of my favorite videos. Ashley recording herself and I'm kind of running off of her shoulder and she's talking and she's realizing she can't talk because her lips are frozen.
Oh,
it looks like she has Botox or something. And then I start trying to talk and mine were sticking to my teeth because everything was freezing. And it was just one of those moments like, oh my God, you just got to laugh. Like only here, you're like freezing to your lips. So it feels like you have Botox or something and like getting these incredibly bad blisters. But, it made it fun, made for some really, really good memories.
I was just gonna say, you mentioned that your lips were freezing. I wonder how I would do in that situation because I have incredibly sensitive teeth. Like I probably would have been miserable. Just like cold wind or anything, you go, yeah, oh my gosh, I can't even picture how I
Well,
would
one
do
day
it.
you're going to have to find out.
Yeah.
Pam first.
You're going to have to find out. We'll get Pam in first and then you,
Yeah,
Erica.
yeah. She can vet everything again.
But yeah, you had a great experience in Antarctica. I'm so happy that you took it all in. You're the moment's kind of person. And then from what I heard was everyone flew back and basically took an aisle. Maybe some people slept on the floor and you had Cape Town the next day. Did you get any rest? What was that transition like going from cold to hot, no sleep? It's your first time. What are you doing to like fuel up and everything? And how'd that go?
Yeah, you reminded me. I forgot we slept on the floor of the plane. So on the way down was when we slept on the floor. I think Bex and I had like the back of the plane was totally empty, and so it's like we just like nestled in, and you could just see each other under the seats, like rode up. I think somebody got a great picture of that trying to sleep. On the way back, we got lucky enough that they placed people on the plane based on weight. So that it's calibrated. So when you land in Antarctica, you can have a smooth landing.
Oh.
Well, when we took off, it just so happened that most of the men were heavier than the women. So all the men were sitting in first class, which I think we had which no one realized at first. And then we're like, wait, they have these nice luxe seats. They can recline. They also got different service. And
How rude.
one of the guys came out on the way back and was like, I'm not taking that seat. Like he was like trying to give it to one of the girls. And we're all like, no. And then eventually David, the director, he's like, girls, everyone go up. all the guys are coming back. Like he like basically swapped everything out, which is very sweet. So on the way back, we actually had a little bit more rest, which is
That's
great.
nice.
It did affect the takeoff. We had a really rough
Oh, no
takeoff.
way.
We bounced a little bit, but it was fine. So yeah, you're reminding me of all these things. And then we had like probably 2 hours of sleep, once we got back, maybe 4, I don't even know. It's like all a blur at that point. And then going downstairs the next morning, starting to run into people, and we're like, okay, next up, Cape Town. And I think that's where we started like getting into the motion of things a little bit. That was a really special race because we all like our legs, it was the first day of a marathon of feeling like what your legs feel like afterwards. It was also the only one that really had hills and really had anything technical. So I think like if you had any more muscle fatigue, it was during that day than some of the later races, which were more flat. But we all just kind of like decided like, let's hang out today, especially because after that first race, like, we all finished so close, especially like we're like, oh, we could run more of this together. And none of us were, I think, really feeling like we're in it to prove something. And there's so many, like, why not? And I think there were 7 of us that day. David ended up like hanging out with us after a while. Jer, this lovely man from Ireland, also came and like ran with us. And that was like definitely solidifying because there's a lot of fun conversation and this huge bond, and where we all like ran through the finish that first time together, which was
one of the coolest things that we got to see. We loved watching the live stream. We were glued to it like the whole time. I mean, just seeing all of you, we started calling you the Fab Five, at least the women. So you guys were just so like, it was so nice to see that, just the camaraderie and the friendship that was being built. It was just awesome to watch from afar.
And that was unplanned, right? Because you didn't do that in Antarctica. I know you kind of were close to each other because you and Bex after the whole Tinkle Pot deal, but in Cape Town, at what point of that race did that actually come together? Because it was pretty early, and from what I heard it was Ashley who kind of like huddled everyone together.
Yeah. I think Ashley, we kind of started off all together. I think we're all just like, we knew we could hang for a little bit, and I don't think anybody was in a rush on that day. And it was funny because when Ashley finished in Antarctica, she was like, oh my God, you were right behind me. I would have waited for you. And I was like, you don't need to wait for me. I was like, and Bex was right behind me, because it's like, and we had different issues, and Bex was like, go. And when we had to go to the bathroom, I was like, Ashley, go. Like, we didn't have to wait. And I think there's respect there. And there was never hard feelings. If somebody wants to go, like, go. And it's like, this is part of the culture. But I think there was something really cool, when Ashley was like, what if we just did it together today? And I was like, sure, I'm down. I'm like, let's roll with it. Let's see how the day folds. And yeah, I think it was, and there was always the agreement that like, if you're feeling good and you want to, like, go. But I think there was this cool, just like mutual respect and maybe ease that formed a really tight bond. And throughout the different races, there were points where like people weren't feeling good, and and really needed that. And I think it was a really cool. I don't think any of us would have run the overall average paces that we did without the amount of running we did together and collectively.
Yeah, I
think there was something about that, like it's almost like the safety in the pack and just to move through it.
Yeah,
versus pulling back and just, suffering in silence solo, which we're all very used to in our running. But
absolutely.
It's one thing to do that on a really fast race when you're driving and you get to recover. But when you're not sleeping, when you have stomach issues, when you're dealing with all these other elements, there's something that is like, there's a power in the connection in the relationships that can really move you forward.
Mm-hmm. Well, something I've said a few times this past year is, as amazing as this running community is, it can also be a very lonely sport, especially endurance training. I've done the Ironmans, less marathons than Erica, but I trained for a marathon this year, and the training and the race to me was so lonely, where I like doing some of the smaller races because you're with everybody, whether it's we did the 10-miler race this year was awesome. Or the race up Mount Washington was amazing because you're surrounded by all these amazing people. And I love that you love to take in moments. You ran all these races together after Cape Town, and you got to take in those moments versus just like getting through every marathon and going through that lonely struggle. Instead, the 5 of you and many others at times joined together and made it such an enjoyable experience where now
Totally.
maybe you want to go back.
Oh yeah. I mean, that's like, you really get to know each other too. Cause I'll say, one thing, sometimes it was just quiet, or sometimes we threw in headphones and just ran together, depending on where people are at, what race it was, how people are feeling. But sometimes we chatted. I mean, you're working with, these like pros that all their average paces of like the other four girls, I think they're not average. Their PR marathons are like in the 2:30s. And we're running like 3:20s, or 3:15s or 3:10s or threes. Like everyone can talk.
Yeah.
And if you have like Bex or Ashley who do this professionally, they talk and run professionally, there's a lot of conversation happening. So like you're getting to know people at a very deep level and their families and all these things. And so like, yeah, what an incredible experience. And I totally agree. And I think so much of our running, and even though like Ashley and Bex do that professionally, still a lot of their training is solo. And there was something just really encouraging and special about that experience to be able to share so many miles with people.
I love how with the running community, the people that you choose to run with, they learn so much about you because no topic is off limits. And that's how our podcast was formed, because we talk about all the shitty things that can happen to you on the runs. And and yeah, so that it does like solidify a friendship.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, let's move on to maybe what I think is one of the coolest parts of this race. And if I ever go to support, well, I guess I can't support, so I guess I'll have to work. So David, you can hire me to work somehow. But this airplane looks so freaking cool. We're watching a live stream. I'm so happy that Ben did a lot of the behind the scenes too, right? And so I'm watching, you're walking up the stairs to get on the airplane, and then these seats look amazing, and everyone has their seatmates, or you call them romies. So who is your roamie, and what was plane life like for you?
Yeah, so it was Shireen and I, and then Bex and Ash were right behind us, and Jenny was across the aisle. And oh man, yeah. So the plane was Lux. My seat didn't recline all the way, which I'll complain about. But it was like just this much difference than everyone else's. But when you're like desperate for sleep, I'm like, I'm so long. I'm like, this doesn't quite work. No, but it was like, honestly, like no complaints. It was the Rolling Stones last tour. They used that plane type thing. So it was nice. And the staff was incredible. I mean, they were so patient with us. We were constantly in the way, making a friggin' mess out of things, bags, like shoes, gear, food, boots, recovery boots are everywhere. Like it was a hot mess, and they were so gracious. And it was just one of those like interesting where everyone is just kind of in this phase, like haze of what do I need next, right? Like food, nutrition, boots now, brush teeth. Like, you're always kind of working within like how many more hours until you run again? Because you're trying to balance nutrition, sleep, etc. Right. But it made it really fun. And I think that's where like Shireen and I were able to like, have a lot more just like these kind of delirious, silly conversations as we're, in our recovery boots, like feet propped up, half laid back, like food on our stomachs. We have some cute sleeping pictures of everyone just totally passed out. So yeah, it's like, that's the real summer camp experience, right? When you're sleeping next to people constantly. It was a giant sleepover for 7 days.
Oh man, that must be some real logistics on that side, just trying to figure out how best to fuel your body, when to rest, how to prep your muscles for the next race. How easy was that for you, or was that actually a challenge?
Yeah, definitely a challenge. I'm not a great sleeper. Some people can sleep anywhere, and that's like not my strength.
I am with you on that, especially on planes, but I have a different fear, and I'll tell the podcast again. I have an irrational fear of letting a fart loose during like sleeping, and that's like I am terrified of doing that around people. So yeah. I will be like 45 hours awake and like not sleep just because I am afraid of doing that. So
oh my gosh,
different reasons for you guys.
You'll probably, if when you do the race, you will.
Oh,
probably
you say when?
Somebody else doing it. You'll be like, it's going to happen. All bets are off.
As long as I'm not the only one, though, that would be fine, but oh God, that's like
you can
terrible.
I feel like there were different pockets where people were having issues, but it wasn't terrible. I wasn't terrible. There was good ventilation and stuff on the plane.
Good.
Like, yeah, that was tough. I will say, yeah, sleeping was hard, but I like some people who are like measuring, they're like, oh, I checked my recovery score. I'm like, why?
Oh,
Bill, why did you do it, Bill?
Well, I mean, like to each their own. Some people like the data. I let my Aura Ring die day one. I haven't charged it. I'm literally just like, need to put it on a charger. I have a charger for it. I'm like literally taking it off, so I do it tonight. But I didn't want to know, because for me, it's like, I don't need to get that information in my head. I know I'm not sleeping well. I know I'm not recovering great. I don't need to know what my numbers are. Like, I'm just going to show up.
it's not going to help you. What is it going to serve?
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
It'll be more cool to look at those numbers after.
Well, basically, Bill's watch just told him he was like dead the whole time. He's like, your body battery is -50. It's not going back up.
Literally, in my normal training cycle, my watches are always telling me I'm like, overexerting, and I'm not, I'm also like not great about wearing my watch all the time. I don't wear my watch all the time. I really only wear it when I'm running. So it's not getting the full picture, and I just tell myself that's why it's okay.
There you go.
Well, speaking of pictures, there's a picture I think you need to, I don't know, purchase or ask Dave for, or just print somehow and get this blown up
Which one?
in your house.
Oh, yeah.
Right here.
That's epic.
Perth, Australia. Look at the for you on that. It looks like a beautiful track or a beautiful like bike lane thing. The sun's setting, I think, not rising. I think it's setting.
Is that Perth?
Setting. Yeah, it's Perth.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah, Perth was really freaking cool. I think that was actually one of my favorite races. I like the course wasn't. It was short. Like there were so many laps. God, I think it was like 18 or 20 or something like that. But it was nice because it was that track, the whole surface, and it was over sunset. It wasn't too hot. It cooled down, and the Australians are so much fun. Like the Irish are incredible, and the whole staff and the crew that was on the race like made it a freaking blast. Their humor is like unparalleled. But I will say, of all the host countries, like the Australians, they got on the bus and like pumped us up as soon as we pulled in, and they made sure we said everything. They were just so hospitable. So that was the magical race. Yeah, I need to print some of those pictures. That's good.
Yeah,
that's definitely an epic one. That one needs to go like above your mantle. Like
that's a frame it photo.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It's a frame it photo. Get all the girls to sign it for you. Or get two, get one unsigned, print a bunch, and just you all sign them and then share them with each other.
Yeah. Well, you're making me realize I just missed out on a good Christmas present opportunity, but
I was gonna say, or they can just get together again, hang out, which they should do anyways, and then they can sign the pictures.
Do your own like Fab Five podcast or travel the country and just do races for fun. Show up unannounced.
Yeah. There will be reunions. There's things in the works. We're gonna do something.
Love it. So Australia was amazing. The people were great. And then I think you ran into the next day some unhappy fishermen. Tell us about Istanbul, Asia, and Istanbul, Europe. And I know I'm not saying it right, Erica, but whatever.
It's a common occurrence on our podcast, but we love them for it.
It's okay. We can say it however we need to say it. Yes. Oh man. So Istanbul, I can't even remember which side was which. The first one. Is that Asia?
I honestly don't even know.
I thought it was supposed to be like Asia, but then they switched it up. They switched it.
I'm permanently confused. I think I wore the wrong bib for it even, so I don't know which I was on. The first Istanbul race was brutal weather. From the sense of it was like spitting rain. Like it wasn't just like drizzling. It was kind of rain that is like you're getting sprayed with a spray bottle in your face. Because there was also wind. And so on the way out, you would get just sprayed on. And on the way back, it was a little bit better because it'd be, against your back, but like just kind of rain misery. Granted, I grew up in the Northwest, so I might have had a little more experience running in really like crappy weather like that. So part of me is like, let's get this done. I was happy to just move on that race.
Yes.
The fishermen, coming from Australia with the most like joyful crew welcoming us in and coming to Turkey. I will say there was a little bit different. There was definitely a culture shock of very different, formal, kind of like poised welcome.
Mm-hmm.
And we ran onto a course where people are trying to do their daily lives, which included fishing at 9 p.m. God knows why, in the rain, in this terrible weather.
Oh.
But they're like, they tried to tape them off. They tried to get them off course. They tried to tape them off, but I'm like, are we going to get hooked?
Right.
And they're blowing these really loud whistles, trying to be nice, but it was like literally right in our ear. At one point, I actually said to one, I was like, please stop. That's really loud. So it was just, it was a little bit tough. I'm sorry. Actually, you will never guess that if you can hear my text. That's Bex and Ashley.
Yeah, we can read them too. We're getting all
Bex
the.
and Ashley.
I'm just.
Yes, Bex and Ashley are texting me. I'm like,
Tell them we say hello.
Bex and Ash, loud digging noise in our ear.
Quit it.
You can tell them to go back and just click the link from the last invite if they want.
Tell them to jump in.
Like, we're just talking about you. So that was brutal, but
I might leave that in. That was great.
You can leave it. Anyway.
So then Istanbul, the second day, went better.
Yeah, and I mean the first one actually was fine. I think I ran well that day. And then on I feel like that was the one race I won. Oh, you know what? You know why though? So we're running together.
Mm-hmm.
Some stomach issues started happening. So Shireen and Bex decided to pull back. Ashley and I are cruising and we're just getting this done. It happened to be Ashley and Maddie's anniversary.
Yes.
And so at midnight, we're cruising along and in the distance, all of a sudden I see this, what I think is a naked man. I was like, oh my God, what is happening in Turkey right now? I realize it's Maddie. So then I'm extra wait, what? And he's wearing a nude Speedo or I don't even know what, dancing for Ashley.
Oh my God.
And so I'm cracking up. I slow down to stop, but I'm like, this is too weird of a moment for me to be a part of. So I kind of keep going and I'm waiting to see it. And they end up she stopped, they talked, they hugged for a minute. And I knew I'm finishing. That's the only reason why I got ahead of Ash on that one. But I was like, thanks, Maddie, for distracting your wife. But so yeah, that was a little bit of midnight chaos and a show in Turkey.
You got a little bit of it all.
Yep.
Yeah, you never know what you're gonna get. Some getting hooked by fishermen or some half naked guys dancing. So but the next morning, we didn't get much sleep at all. That was the one night I don't think we ate, actually. Because some of the guys are of course guys think of this. They're like, well, yeah, we just called room service. And we're like, oh.
Whoops. But yeah, you guys actually had a hotel room to stay in. But did you guys even get to rest? How much time was in between?
Not enough. I think we slept 4 hours so we could actually eat breakfast and then get to the next one. But the next day was good. It was sunny, better weather. There were cats everywhere. They feed the cats and dogs in the streets. They put out bowls at a certain time.
Oh, that's a huge distraction for me. I wouldn't have gotten anywhere. Ooh,
They're very cute. I'm you just these little cats that are perched watching you go back and forth. There's some cool pictures of it. But that was a fast race. I think that was the one Ash and I both went under 3.
Nice.
It started where Shireen was like, I'm feeling good. And I was like, okay. I think she had something, she had such a bad race the day prior. She was like, let's do this. She's like, I slept in a bed. I feel great. And so she starts cranking and I'm like, you guys go. Cause we were dropping 6:15s and it was, 6 miles in. And I was like, I'm not doing that. That's not
sustainable.
I don't need a PR during this one. And so, her and Ash push off a little bit. I think we all ended up running solo for the most part that race.
Mm-hmm.
I knew myself well enough to be like, look, I can hold a 6:44. I know that pace really well. It's a solid training pace. And I was like, and then I can come into 3.
Easy
so
pace.
Not easy, but it's
I'm just kidding.
And I was like, the course is flat. I'm feeling good.
I'm impressed. Very impressed. 4th marathon, 6:44 pace. I'm very impressed.
Well, thank you. I mean, it was kind of a fun challenge because it gave me something to focus on is what it did. Because that was the only race I was looking at my watch and the only race I was caring about pace. Every other race, I like honestly can tell you, wasn't looking at my watch, wasn't caring. But I was like, maybe we'll do one sub 3 if this seems like a good one, if it's going to be it.
There you go.
And so I was very proud at the end of that race. It was I don't remember what the final time was. It was under 3, and my splits were within like seconds of each other. And so that was just like a very gratifying race. Ash took that one. She went way under. Shireen ended up throwing up and falling back, unfortunately, but she still ran. I mean, everyone still had great times that day. So
for somebody who loves stats so much, if you like, anytime I can see consistency between my splits, it's just something so nice about it. It's, like you said, satisfying. So that's congratulations. Like that in itself is a feat, but like still going sub 3, amazing.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, it was a cool one. It was a good day.
Hillary, you got to answer a question for me. So we have talked to some of the other racers, and we got to know like kind of the sequence of events. But if you guys have to run these races and then get on a plane, do you have a chance to shower at any point, or is there a shower on the plane? Like, how are you guys?
That'd be cool.
How are you guys? How does the plane smell at this point? We're 4 days in.
Very valid question. Better than most relay cars. No, there's not a shower on the plane, but there was opportunities to shower after every race, and respectfully, everyone did. Ironically enough, the most painful one was after the second Istanbul race, because it was a local soccer club, and it happened that the setup, there was like one shower for the women's side, and since we were since we finished fast that day, I remember getting in there, and I was like, oh great, there's not gonna be a line. There was no towels, no soap, and the hot water wasn't working.
No.
So I ended up going in, but I'm like, this is happening, and I need it to happen now because I was getting cold, right? Because it was pretty cold out, and you're sweaty and all that.
Yeah.
Go in, I like the paper towel dispensers that dispense this much paper at a time.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Oh.
Like probably 3 minutes worth of like layering paper towels. I take the soap from the foam hand dispenser, at the sink, layering that up, cover my body in soap, rinse off as quickly as humanly possible, dry off with paper towels, and then get rest. So, later, a couple hours later, the boys were able to find they went and like bought towels somewhere. So, and then somebody figured out the hot water eventually, but I just had to.
It's all part of the adventure.
Yeah.
And the journey, the story. I mean, if it all worked out perfectly, would it be that fun?
No,
honestly, that story ended a little bit better than I thought, because I thought you had chafing issues and you were just like getting under the stream and you were going to be like, oh no. So at least it's still not good, but
the chafing issues were real, but wait until Cartagena.
Oh, okay.
Okay, well let's jump on that airplane. I think you had a 16-hour flight over there, and then you walk out of that airplane in a woof of hot, warm, humid air right in your face. It's like you're swimming outside.
Disgusting. I hate it. I don't like humidity. Yeah, I mean, everyone was excited for the warmer race days, and I'm like, why?
Why?
Scientifically speaking, there's no performance gains from this. It's painful. It's miserable. There's just a lot of people that I'm like, this isn't vacation. Like, yeah, sure. Like, put me in a swimsuit and like maybe I'll hang. But like,
that's a different story.
That running in the humidity, I'm not trained for that, and I knew that was going to be brutal, and it was. Yeah, it was. It was. I will say that was a day to work together. I'm really, really proud of how we ran. We ran really smart. From the get-go, especially Ashley and I think, who have, some experience, even though I may not be experienced running a lot of heat, I'm like more versed in the ultra world and like fuel early, ice. I've studied a lot of heat training because I have some upcoming races that I might do. And I'm like ice in the bra, ice in the shorts, like getting your head wet. I should have braided my hair and put it in a bun. I had the terrible rat's nest of a ponytail, but it was just, it was tough. But the beautiful thing about that race is like, the four of us were like, we're fine afterwards. And that is like I can only attribute that to like smart racing. And I think that was our slowest day. I think
Well,
we ran fast
as
in
you can
Antarctica.
imagine, yeah, just
Yeah, I
running
think
in
it's
that
like
kind of heat is just not a sustainable thing either. It just
no,
takes so much energy from you.
yeah,
Mm.
yeah. It was a grind, but you can grind together, and it was beautiful.
There
So
you go.
I will say I love Cartagena. Like we got to spend a little bit more time there. It was like the one city we got to get down to. It's super charming. I will go back just to hang out. I will not be running.
It looked like you had an
That's
amazing
fair.
dinner after too. Like you all kind of
Yeah.
got like dressed up a little
Oh,
bit
yeah.
for it, like summertime dress up, not fancy dress.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
And you got to
exactly.
really enjoy everyone's company. It's like you almost got to slow down for a second and not
Yes,
jump on an
exactly.
airplane right away.
Yeah, we had it was like the biggest gap we had because we sacrificed our naps, which maybe in retrospect wasn't the right thing to do. But
It was worth it.
it was a great memory. It was a beautiful little town in the city center. We had all the fresh fish and some paella, which wasn't necessarily regional, but it was delicious. And yeah, it was worth every bit of the
Yeah.
sacrifice.
Yeah. Did
And
you
at
go
least-
swimming?
So back to the chafing.
Oh,
I
okay.
would have loved to get in that freaking ocean. I wore recommendation for anybody doing that race or running there, wear spandex. For whatever reason, I always wear shorts, just regular shorts.
Mhm.
I did not bring spandex, and I should have for the humid races. I chafed so bad during those 2 races. And even with I do what I would normally do, but I'm just not used to. It wasn't just the humidity. It was the fact we were literally dumping bottles of water on ourselves.
Right.
And so you were completely soaked. Your shorts feel like a diaper. Like everything's just heavy. And it was for whatever reason, the type of shorts I had chafed really bad. And once you start, it's just going to get worse.
What are you
so
doing to
I feel ya.
recover in between the races then with these?
Chafing?
Yeah, because I have a trick. I don't know if you know it, but you do have young kids
No.
just like me.
No, I obviously need it now because you know what I was doing? I was wearing my widest leg pants and waddling around Cartagena.
Oh,
Acting
Hillary.
like it's cool, guys. It's cool. Don't let the thighs touch. It was
So
miserable.
so this is my code brown commandment, but the quickest way to cure chafing is diaper rash cream.
Oh, I wish I would have had that.
So you put it
No.
on after. You don't put it
Okay.
on before because
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
you don't
yeah.
want that. You put it on
No.
after.
I do
Then
know
you
some
lay
people
down.
I do know people who put it on during, and that's when you get the skunk stripe, which nobody wants anyway. So
Okay.
just afterwards is the best.
I'm taking notes. Okay. Next time.
Yeah. Next time you
Sure.
chafe, right before bed, lather that diaper rash cream on it, go to sleep. The next day, good to go.
Okay. Thank you, Eric.
Yeah.
I wish you would have told me this sooner.
Well, we
If only we had
weren't
known
friends
you
then,
at
but
that
we are
point.
now.
I know. I'm just reliving Miami and the pain of that. But yes.
Ah.
So you bypassed a nap, and at least you knew you only had one race to go. So did you get any sleep? I know you got to enjoy a nice meal, but were there any resting moments before you did Miami?
So a lot of people are great sleepers and lay down after they ate in the hotel lobby. I could not. We had a flight from Cartagena to Miami. I slept on that flight. It was 2 hours. And I remember I woke up when we were landing, and it was the first time in the entire week that I started tearing up. And I was like, I'm not ready yet. I am not ready to get up. And it wasn't I'm not a big crier. Sometimes I wish I was. but
Exhaustion is a crazy thing, though.
it was the true, I was upset about it. I was upset about not being able to sleep, and I finally had fallen asleep and not being able to sleep anymore. And I was like, okay. And so with that, we get in the airport. They're trying to figure out the timing. The race start is changing. We don't have we can't check into our hotels yet. I'm just I don't know. At this point, I'm I might just lay on the ground and suck it up for a couple hours. And then Bex is I'm going to my hotel. Do you want to come? And I'm like, sure. I'll just check my bags at the front because Austin was already checked in. So,
Gotcha.
So that was helpful. We had a place. And we went. It was really nice. It was nice to have a space to there was no one up and around except for this other group of drunk Irishmen, not ours.
Oh.
very entertaining. I was like, we just can't escape like the rowdy Irish who were just up partying at 5 a.m. in the lobby of Nobu. And we had our bags completely unpacked, throwing stuff away, reorganizing. It was just like something kind of to mentally do and prepare ourselves, got ready, and then scurried our way over to the race start, which again was changing. Like literally we were getting in real time changes of like, where do we take our Uber to?
Oh no.
We need to show up to this in the next 15 minutes. So we made it. It was fine.
Did you know like that you were in the lead overall? Were you aware of this going on?
That's a great question. I was not paying attention to it at all, but I was made aware when we were leaving Cartagena. So I mentioned that point where like after dinner, like everyone was kind of like sleeping in the lobby, like we're waiting for our bus to pick us up. And I was sitting with Ben and Braxton and chatting, I don't know, business stuff. And then like Ben was like, did you know where you're ranking in this? And I'm just like, I don't want to know, Ben. I don't want to know. I don't need to know. I was like, it's not about that. And he's like, if you do this tomorrow, like you could take this. And I was like, it's not about that, Ben. And I was like, I don't know. I'm like, sure. Like this is everything had already surpassed my expectations so much that I really wasn't in it for the title. I mean, it would be icing on the cake, but it was like, okay, that's maybe motivation to hold on. But I was like, I'm already like, for me, and this actually goes back to like I mentioned that Bend Marathon that was really, really tough. One of the things I had worked on so much during my training for both New York and this was mindset and thinking about like, I'm not focused on the end result of what I want this to be. I want to focus on how I want to show up and how I handle the moments when I'm hurting. And that's really where I was at. I'm just like, and what will be. Because the thing is, like, especially at that point, I'm like, I could have something hurt tomorrow. I could start running and be like Ashley and not be able to freaking walk. And if I'm like Ashley and not walking, I'm not running a 3:30 marathon. Like she is like a different kind of superhuman. So I didn't want to like over rev myself. I'm like, well, then now that's the goal. Like the goal was still show up with everything you have and give the day what it has and what it holds for you. And so that made it a little bit easier because also I felt like crap. That was the first race that I'd say even though Cartagena was hard, it still was like joyful. Miami was like, there were bits of joy, but there was a lot more suffering than any of the other races for me, for sure.
Well, what we could see on that live stream, you were running with Bex for most of it, and the two of you just like, you were so focused and dialed in. Like you couldn't tell how much agony you guys were in between being in like the full sun, the heat, just being exhausted. Like you guys just looked focused and ready to finish the damn thing.
Yeah. I think that's well put. That's probably, I think in the other races, we were smiling a lot more. I know I was smiling a lot more. I was cheery. I was like interacting with like the live stream, that kind of thing. In Miami, I was like grind. I was like, at one point I needed sunglasses, like the sun actually kind of stuck. I had lost my sunglasses and I like turned down a pair stupidly at the beginning. And then at one point I got like kind of emotional. I was like, somebody give me sunglasses. And luckily, like one of the like Bex Beast crew, like somebody handed me a pair, and then another one ran out to me, and so I wore them during the end because it's also like, and Bex is smart about this, and I've used this, but not as frequently, and now I will, especially going to races like that. It's like one, the fatigue on your eyes in the sun is real, but they're also like a shield. Like when you're feeling emotional, it is like, I can protect myself and this is like where I can stay and no one has to know what's going on behind here. And so I was like, I think that's part of why I needed the sunglasses.
There you go. Yep.
So you can see the dead behind my eyes.
Well, I don't see any dead in that photo right there.
That's because of the sunglasses. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. Yep. That's an amazing photo. That's another one you got to print.
Yeah.
You got to not just print it, Hillary. You got to frame it.
Somebody's got to make you like a book with all of these. Keep it on your coffee table.
Cool. That would be really cool.
In college, I had a table, and it was this old table. So instead of buying like a, as I'm trying to find my mouse to stop sharing the screen. Instead of buying like a nice tablecloth, I bought a clear one, and we took a bunch of photos from college, from like ski trips
cool.
and camping or whatever, all our drinking parties and everything at Plymouth State. It was a fun time. That's where Erica and I met. We went to college together. And so we put all the photos on the table, and then we put the clear tablecloth on top of it and like kind of heated it a little bit so it wouldn't move and everything stayed still. That's what we did. That's a cool, fun little thing. You know, maybe not on your dining table, but you know,
it's gonna be right
in
here.
the downstairs in the Hillary cave, as we'll call it.
I don't have a Hillary cave. I do have there's a part of my garage that's like my cave. It's like my bike, my tread, paddleboard, snowboard, and all my shoes.
You live a cool life. Paddleboard, snowboard, running the world.
You
so
know,
you're a snowboarder, not a skier.
You know, I say that almost like regrettably. I wish I was a skier at this phase of my life, and I'm not good at either. But I live in a mountain town. You got to get up sometimes.
Yeah.
I'll cross country ski. Cross country skiing is my next thing. Skate skiing is my next thing.
There you
The
go.
adventure's in your blood, though. You just strive for adventure and some cool shit. That's all I can say.
I'm all about it.
Well, besides showing up to the Peloton studios one day to run with us there, when we hopefully can like rent out the whole studio, and that's really something I want to do. So Bex, like, look for that email in about 6 months to hopefully do something about 6 months later. Actually, Erica, you were supposed to do the Bex run that you what would I call it? You had to back out on.
Couldn't
and
really
Hillary was
afford
there
to go to at the time. Yeah,
It was you.
December 14th. I was supposed to be. I'm so happy you got my spot.
Thank you.
I think you might have gotten her spot, actually, Hillary, because she backed out like 2 days before.
No,
Okay,
well, it was a little bit before that, but like I gave him like a week's notice, but it was just so expensive to go in the city during like Christmas time. I was like,
It was
so
stupid.
I'm so glad you got to enjoy it, and you got a 60-minute Bex class, which is like perfect. So maybe we can do like get her to do another 90-minute or a 120-minute, and
Oh my gosh,
get our long
120.
runs in.
We should request a long one. Let's just grind.
Let's do it.
Get her on board.
I'm down. I'll train for the 120. But what I was leading to, Hillary, was what's next? What's next for Hillary Kupish? Oh my God, I said it wrong. Koopish.
Oh my God.
Koopish.
Koopish. I had it.
You had it at the start. It's okay. I'll give it to you. What is next? Next up on February 8th, I think it is, Black Canyons, 100K. So I'm returning to the trails. It's going to be, 100K grueling down in Arizona. I'm really excited for it. I love being outside. I love the trails. I'm not trained properly for it. I'll be completely honest. But I'm really looking forward to being out there. It's also, I'm pretty sure it's going to be a very stacked field. It's a golden ticket race. And there's going to be a lot of talent out there. So I'm just kind of going to be like bowing down to some greatness around me and seeing it where I can keep up. But
well, don't sell yourself short though, because you are amazing. Just one thing, if you're anything like me, just watch where your feet go, because trails, God, they hurt me. They don't like me very much at all. So
I'll fall at least once. That always is guaranteed. Any
pick
trail
yourself back up and just keep going.
Yeah, we keep moving. And that's where actually Ashley's going to come down. So we'll have at least a mini reunion.
Yes.
I texted Bex and Shireen this morning about this, and I have to shoot Jenny one too. But I'm trying to recruit even if they're not running it, just to like come and hang out for the weekend.
There you go. That'll be amazing.
You guys are invited too. Come join us.
We'll bring microphones.
Perfect.
Yeah.
You can be all on it together.
Well, Ashley mentioned, and I know she was joking, but like we always said, this is like, a podcast where we envision people sitting around the campfire, chatting, getting to know each other. And I was like, Ashley, let's all go to Utah, sit around the campfire at her place and just talk, but we'll have microphones on.
See, I'll go run that race with you guys. I'll bring up the rear. You guys can just like make one of those like tunnels that I run through when I finish. I'll be like the DFL, like.
Well, there's also a 50K. It's on Sunday.
Oh,
so I'm running the race on Saturday. There's a 50K on Sunday. The 50K is still open.
You're
I'm
selling
pouring
it.
someone to it. So
Erica, you have
If
like
I
Erica,
can
you
make it
have
to
no other
Arizona.
commitments. You don't have kids you have
Except
to
that
stay
it's
home
in
for. You just have
Arizona.
cats you need to get fed.
the tickets are cheap and the
Stop,
hotels are
stop.
pretty good. You
All
got a
right,
crew there. I will crew you.
I will look
Erica,
into
I
it.
won't
That
even
sounds
make you
really fun.
take content. Just go and have
Yes, you
fun.
will. You're full of shit. Okay. I will look into this. This does sound pretty fun, but
Okay. Oh,
do not
check it
count
out.
on me. You go have fun with Ashley at the very least.
Well, Hillary, you're amazing. You've been extremely gracious with your time. We're at an hour and a half now, but we have 2 more questions. And as I hinted in the email, we don't ask those hard questions, but one of these last questions sometimes is a really hard question. I'm going to let Erica go first with hers, and
you
then
are.
I'll ask you mine.
All right. So I think he prepped you. So we have this awesome Spotify playlist, and we like to invite our guests to add a song to it. So it could be anything that you're feeling at the moment. I don't even know if you listen to music while you run, but just something that pumps you up, gets you motivated. Would you like to add a song?
Yes. I'm gonna have to send you the artist because I actually don't remember the artist.
Sure.
But it's on it's YSL. It's a good jam.
I will check it out.
Yeah, that's the name of the song, YSL.
Yves Saint Laurent?
Yeah, exactly. It's a little bit spicy. It's a good rhythm. I think a lot of my music right now is a little bit lower RPM and just kind of
Something to
chill
grind
and-
to, right?
yeah, it's a good one.
Excellent. We will add that to the playlist. I'm gonna look it up right after we chat. So I will put it right on there.
It's a good warm up song. Like move the hips to it.
Nice.
It's all
Now,
in the hips.
my question is, I change mine up every year, and this is dropping in 2025. So all of our 2025 guests on the podcast are welcome to come to our, imaginary on the runs pasta dinner at the end of the year. And every one of you gets to bring a +1. They can be anyone, someone from the running community, a running coach, maybe a friend, a family member, alive or dead, famous, whoever you want. Who is your +1 to our on the runs pasta dinner?
I was prepped to this question and I didn't think of an answer. So I'm going to go with my gut on this. And I'm gonna have to say it's gonna have to be like a +1.5 because I'd want to bring my kids.
Oh,
All right, we'll allow for the children. Yes.
They're small. They'll share a plate. They don't. They're little, and I mean, honestly, my first response in my mind is like Seneca, like maybe a Stoic. I don't know. And like the reality is, I would want them there. I think like them being able to be a part of like all the incredible people that I know you guys would bring to the table. Like, what a gift to be able to pass on that type of like passion and people and experiences. Yeah, for sure.
that is a great answer.
We're kind of little badasses, like, excuse my language.
It's going to be a great list this year. It's going to be a great list. It's
your
early
kids'
in the
names,
year, but we're
Hillary?
starting off strong.
Yeah.
What are their names?
Arlo Dove, she's 3, and Ezra Jude, he's 6.
Oh my God, I love it.
Yeah, they're great.
Arlo
3 and
Dove.
6. I know where you are right now. I know exactly where you are in the life of children because I'm right there with you.
Yeah, we're deep in it. High five. Text
Yes.
if you need something. Moral support.
Erica, anything you want to say before we send her off to dinner time?
I just want to say thank you for your time again. You are so wonderful. Congratulations on this excellent feat that you pulled off. You had amazing company, and I'm so glad that you guys all got to connect and made these lasting friendships. I think it's just so beautiful to see, especially in all those pictures that Eric was showing. So just congratulations again. I hope 2025 treats you well and that you get to do more epic shit because you are cut out for it. And just, I don't know, keep in touch.
Yeah, for sure. No, thank you so much. Honestly, you guys have been a joy to talk to. It's been a privilege. So grateful for the experience. It's been wild. And I'm hoping to see you out at Black Canyon.
Yes.
I gotta go now.
Make it happen, Erica. Make it happen. Guys, that was awesome. I really hope you enjoyed this one with Hillary. So cool that she just takes in all the moments. She wasn't expecting anything, and she won the whole freaking thing, and she got to meet her heroes. And as Erica said before, when we had some other people, when we had Bex on, meet your heroes because they're awesome people. And that's what she got to experience. And now they're texting her during the podcast. It's like, what's this loud dinging in my ears? It's so cool. Our pod fam is amazing. Hillary, welcome to the pod fam. Thank you so much, guys. I hope you enjoyed it because it was wicked awesome. Hillary Kupish on the On the Runs podcast.
Thanks so much, you guys. You're amazing.